I missed a couple of updates in the ongoing conflict with Iran. Lots of interesting stuff. Allegedly, in a desperate bid to get Iran to stop firing at Israel, we bribed them by unfreezing $3 billion? How interesting. Also interesting, yesterday, Tehran took down an Apache helicopter. You know, the ones that, is it Apaches or Tomahawks that transition? Which one is the transgender helicopter? I identify as an Apache helicopter spraying hot missiles. You get it. It's Apache. Okay, they took down the transgender helicopter. U.S. military said Tuesday it carried out strikes in Iran following the crash of an Army helicopter. And boy, did we conduct strikes. The war's back on, boys. And I mean, it's been on for a while, but look at this. 8 minutes ago, U.S. Central Command forces completed self-defense strikes against Iran. Self-defense strikes. Thank you. At the Commander-in-Chief's direction, in response to yesterday's downing of a U.S. Army Apache helicopter, CENTCOM forces struck Iranian air defense ground control stations and surveillance radar sites near the Strait of Hormuz with precision munitions from U.S. Air Force and Navy fighter jets. The operation was they're quoting CENTCOM here. The operation was a proportional response to recent attacks on U.S. forces and international commercial ships transiting regional waters. So, wait, Revolutionary Guard claims the downing of an American MQ-9 drone. Good for them. Yeah, we're bombing them again. The war's back on. We are farther away from a reopening of the Strait than ever before. How will this affect the stock market price? Great news. They decided to do this after the market closed. Feels like nobody even cares about this. It just started happening. Reports of an explosion heard on Karg Island. Several more explosions were heard on Keshim Island. All these are within the past hour. Ooh, boy. Weren't we the one that missiled oil tankers in the Strait? Yes. We targeted water infrastructure. We did target water infrastructure, which is probably not good if you're one of those non-accelerationist individuals who doesn't want the whole thing to, blow up. That's, that's really on you. I believe Ken Klippenstein actually has some interesting information pertaining to that Apache helicopter. Exclusive, U.S. secretly deployed paratroopers to Israel. Nope, that's a different thing. Or is it? The deployment is tied to a new U.S.-Israel joint contingency plan for seizing Karg Island and carving out coastal territory inside Iran. Yeah, this is contemporary. This is just a couple hours ago. Information leaked to Ken Klippenstein, our very favorite special golden boy of reporting on leaked information, confirms that the 82nd Airborne has been preparing to seize Karg Island, which is to an extent what we expected, and potentially carve up territory inside Iran. By keeping the deployment quiet, the Pentagon headed off public debate over a joint U.S.-Israeli operation inside Iran. It's great to remember that however cucked we may seem to Israel from a distance, we're actually much, much more cucked than that. You know? Like, we know we're cucked to Israel based only on publicly available information. When you add in the stuff that you have to get, like, this is only leaking to Ken a couple of months after the initial deployment. Pretty crazy. The Pentagon has never acknowledged it. In public, it has only said that the 82nd was bound for CENTCOM. Weren't they planning this with the 82nd since, like, the beginning of all this? Yeah, if they were going to do it, they were going to do it with the 82nd, probably. Brigade of roughly 3,000 soldiers, able to play anywhere in the world within 18 hours. Well, considering the fact that things are popping off again, we're going to see if they end up getting used. We are peppering the islands right now. You think the operation will be a bloodbath? Well, we've been managing the conflict so well so far, so, I'm sure it'll go fine. CENTCOM has done nothing but exceed our expectations thus far, right? Oh, Al Jazeera, give me updates on the current strikes. This is happening now, folks.
As you speak, we have put up on screen the tweet by the U.S. military command CENTCOM. So I'll just run through it. U.S. Central Command forces began launching self-defense strikes against Iran at 5 p.m. Eastern Time today at the Commander-in-Chief's direction. So that's Donald Trump's direction. In response to yesterday's downing of a U.S. Army Apache...
Okay, they're just reading the tweet. That's great. Phenomenal. Thank you very much. That's loud. Yeah, we're going to have to figure out our OBS settings for a bit.
Hey there, I'm Scott McLean. All right, we're coming on air with some breaking news here. This is from Iran's deputy foreign minister, who has spoken to Al Jazeera, saying that Tehran was not behind the attack on the U.S. Apache helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. But
what do you think, boys? Israel? Another false flag?
But he also added the following. given the highly tense situation in the Strait of Hormuz, such incidents could occur unintentionally. He also said that it was not deliberate targeting by Iran of the U.S. helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. So read into that what you will. Let's try to make some sense of this with our correspondent, Al-Migdad Al-Ruhaid. He's our man in Tehran. So Al-Migdad, you can read this so many ways. The first part seems to be indicating that Iran didn't do this, but then they also seem to be...
Is the U.S. getting low on oil still? Let me say this right now to just preemptively address any lingering concerns with regard to the state of the world following my, 6-day absence. Every single bad thing that I have described has only continued to get worse in my absence. I'm giving you, this is like a general update, okay? Everything from the availability of petroleum and its byproducts to the Super El Nino to the... worsening fuel crisis, particularly on the eastern coast of Africa and Southeast Asia, to Europe, to the unavailability of non-U.S. Plane fuel, jet fuel in the EU. Like every single thing that I've described, nothing has improved on any level. It's actually gotten much worse. Screwworm has been found not only in the United States, but outside of Texas. The climate info with regards to AMOC has gotten worse on every conceivable level. Everything that we've been concerned about, has gotten worse. Not everything, Vosh. PV hit 20K a month in revenue and sold over 2K in Prime merch. That's a good plug, Ben. That's a good plug. Oil prices are going down though, lol. I mean, do you mean like the speculative oil price? Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's not been engaging rationally with the market at all. The actual availability of oil, on the other hand, only continues to go down. Again, you can financialize it as much as you want, but at the end of the day, oil is a physical commodity that you can have or not have. You get me. They meant gas prices, probably. Gas prices have gone down in part due to a slight reduction in demand, but also due to the reactivation of some gasoline refineries in the United States. That is to say, we're burning through our available oil stockpiles a little bit faster so we can produce gasoline faster to continue to put a downward pressure on price. We are now at the lowest strategic petroleum reserve level since August 1983. And the reason we're going back that far is because this was when we were filling it for the first time. So, in essence, it is the lowest level ever since we started having a strategic petroleum reserve.
Indicating that if they did, it wasn't intentional. So can you help us make sense of what precisely the Iranians are saying?
Well, actually, this is a confirmation of denial of that incident, of not taking responsibility about shutting down the Apache helicopter by what Donald Trump, President of the United States, a couple of hours ago, this Tuesday local time, claiming that Iranian forces brought down the Apache helicopter. And now we have this very clear message from Deputy Foreign Minister, tells Al Jazeera a couple minutes ago that Tehran was not behind the attack on the U.S. Apache helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. And he also said that given the...
Why isn't America rationing oil if it's as bad as the 80s oil crisis? It's actually worse than the 80s oil crisis. It's just that at that... You mean the 70s, I assume. During the 70s, we did not have a strategic petroleum reserve. So if we ran out... we felt that supply shock much faster. This time we do have a reserve, though we're burning through it quickly. As for why we haven't lowered prices, we are very stupid. We are a deeply stupid and arrogant people. That's the big gist of it.
Highly tense situation in the Strait of Hormuz, such incidents could occur unintentionally. So that is a very clear line right now. They are denying the responsibility and also that emphasizing that Tehran is not behind this incident. At the same time, he said that could occur unintentionally, and this aligned with the message comes from the Foreign Minister Abbas Araqdi an hour ago this Tuesday. He sent a broader message.
How long will the reserves last? I feel like it's been a few weeks at most for the past few weeks. You're incorrect. The reserves at their current level of disbursement are actually expected to last several months. The problem is that the dispersion from the reserves is not enough to cover the missing supply from the Strait of Hormuz. The dispersion of the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, I think, is around 1.5 million barrels a day, which has been steadily decreasing at that rate. However, we are down in total about 20 million barrels a day from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a significant portion of which would have gone to the United States. So the reserve will last longer than how long it will take for us to hit the supply shock.
That we warn this area is an area of combat, area of back and forth escalation, as we've seen over the past few weeks. And the deputy foreign minister also tells Al Jazeera that there was no deliberate targeting by Iran of the United States helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. So it's a clear message that right now the room for understanding, that memorandum of understanding, the room for...
How nice. All done? Oh, I'm sure CENTCOM is done. U.S. complete strikes in response to Iran's attack on Apache. Something transgender. So the problem with this is that we might be done, but I don't know if Iran is done. I don't know. I don't think Iran heard no bell. Which is, not great for us. In my absence, in addition to the many, many things I didn't cover that I would have liked to have covered, hold on 1 second. Iran 3 billion unfreeze. Let me see if I can find this. Still discussing it. I see. Iran did it be funny? Yes. Iran struck Israel in response to Israel's aggression inside of Lebanon, which marks the first time in the conflict that Iran has struck Israel for something that had nothing directly to do with attacks on Iran. So regionally, Iran has only gotten more confident and more aggressive, which is interesting. Vosh, I work in an Amazon warehouse, and I can tell you from the hours of talking to normies of many demographics, literally no one's acting like anything's going to happen as a result of the oil shock. Like I said, we are evil, and we deserve what's coming to us. We do. Yeah, pretty much, man. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
The U.S. attacking Iran, Iran now retaliating, a dangerous escalation in the war that's now on day 102. Tehran claiming it's firing missiles and drones towards U.S. targets. An attack after CENTCOM confirms the U.S. hit a number of targets in Iran. So this has been a back and forth, multiple explosions reported now along the Strait of Hormuz. And it all started, Trump says, when Iran shot down a U.S. Apache helicopter as it patrolled the crucial waterway. And that was a significant strike, maybe at the hands of an Iranian Shahed drone, coming amidst a ceasefire that was broken 2 days ago, with missiles hitting back and forth once again between Iran and Israel. The president tonight telling ABC's Jonathan Karl that this is a response to what they did with our helicopter last night. And I believe the response should be very strong, very powerful, and that's what this was. Now, this is the first time in the war that Apache's gone down by a country whose military, right, Trump claims to have obliterated. Certainly when it comes to things like the Navy and the Strait, it's been obliterated or left at the bottom of the sea many times, according to Trump. The attack coming just hours after Trump...
Reports of Iran launching missiles just 10 minutes ago. Yeah, they didn't hear no bell. I'm happy to say. How does a Shahed drone hit a helicopter? The same way it hits anything, I assume. I'm not really sure. I assume they can, drones are pretty powerful, pretty useful tool. Yeah, I don't know. Any updates on where the 2028 asteroid's supposed to be hit? Good news, we're not going to make it that long. We won't have to worry about it. No, really, though, it looks like we're about to get back into a proper hot war. I have no idea how, the thing is that, the early shearing off of defensive capabilities mostly took place from Iran to us. They hit our bases. Our bases have been sitting abandoned. We are running low on interceptors. The longer this war goes on, the more disproportionately the effects of the conflict are going to be felt by Israel. So if anything, actually, it's going to get worse for them with time because there's less U.S. munitions to back them up. This isn't good. What's not good? U.S. carriers spent $6.5 billion on fuel in April. Nah, it's fine. U.S. airlines spent more than $6 billion on jet fuel in April, up 78% from a year earlier, despite using less fuel. Ha! Well, you know. No, Vermin, it's gotta be the politics first. A lot's going on. But I will. Also, hi, Vermin. Main polls have closed. Governor and Senate count has begun. Yeah. Don't worry. We'll get to it. CNN, give me that clean, unbiased news.
Trump said the U.S. would be declaring victory in Iran in the next 2 weeks, and also that there was a deal, the cusp of a deal with Iran, which is a claim, in fact, that Trump has now made at least 38 times since the war began.
They're begging to make a deal.
I think they want to make a deal very badly.
Iran is dying to make a deal. We're going to end that war very quickly. They want to make a deal so badly.
We're close to a very good deal.
We're in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal.
Where does that deal stand tonight? Well, in a moment, we're going to take you live to the ground in Tehran. But first, I want to go straight to Kristen Holmes because she's out front live outside the White House. And Kristen, now a back and a forth happening in the Strait of Hormuz between the U.S. and Iran. I mean, what are you learning about the scope of the strikes this hour?
Yeah, Aaron, it certainly doesn't seem as though they're moving in the right direction in terms of some kind of a peace deal. But what I'm told is that right now there is a limited scope when it comes to these strikes. They're looking at military targets along the Strait of Hormuz, but we are told that they are expecting more strikes throughout the evening.
Not just military.
Now, one of the things that we have been told was that this was meant to be somewhat of a warning shot fired to Iran after the downing of that Apache, and that they don't think long-term this is going to affect any of those negotiations. Now, it's unclear whether or not they noted that Iran was going to retaliate and retaliate so quickly. We saw a post from Iran's foreign minister saying that any strike from the U.S. would essentially be countered. Now, the U.S. is still maintaining that it is somewhat optimistic about these negotiations, about reaching a peace deal. However, it's unclear whether or not that 2 to 3 day timeline, which President Trump laid out last night, still holds. Of course,
It's so fucking cool how they have to keep pretending that Trump's estimations mean anything, even in a segment that opens with them saying Trump's estimations mean absolutely nothing. Man, can you, like, in what way exactly is CNN going to change after Barry Weiss takes over? Genuinely, like, what difference is there going to be?
It heard that kind
They're
of
gonna fucking fire
before,
Caitlin Collins,
and we are still in
she's
the
the
midst
one
of this
gal I
no
like
longer
here.
even ceasefire as the two sides are trading strikes.
Unfortunately, you know, this ceasefire is beginning to escalate, and this is not what the administration wants. Trump truly wants a deal, and I actually think the Iranians want a deal. But until we can stop shooting at each other, nobody's going to come to the negotiating table. I've been saying for quite some time that the president needs to think about his kind of long-term strategic goals, and those should be, first and foremost, to get the strait open. The only way that strait's going to get open is if the president lifts the blockade under the auspices that the Iranians have got to open the straits, and then sit down and begin the long-term negotiations that are going to be required for the highly enriched uranium, the state sponsor of terrorism, and all the things that the Iranian regime has been doing that we want to put in better balance.
Yeah, and of course, the irony of what you say, the first strategic goal is to return to the way things were before the war started, at least when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz itself, right, with reopening that. It does come in the context of this deal, Admiral, where Trump, as I said, the number that we counted is at least 38 times over the past couple months. He has said that a deal with Iran was close to being finalized, right? There's a deal, and we know it often comes over the weekend. It comes ahead of the market opening.
See, like, they can acknowledge it. Like, the people at CNN, everyone in media, every single one of them, they all know what's going on here, but they can't just say, there is absolutely no editorial authority. Everyone just bends their knee to the fucking administration. The funny thing is that despite this being a byproduct of, like, the American empire, they only do this to Republicans because Republicans are, like, the purest expression of America's self-destructive instinct. With Democrats, like, you can run a billion op-eds on how Biden is, mentally faltering, and it's like an actual challenge to the administration's authority. But with Republicans, you cannot do it. You can only maybe gesture at the idea that we're being run by a mad king.
Played a few of those claims a few moments ago. But, you say you believe the Iranians also want a deal as well. How do you think they view, though, the reality that it is now very obvious to anyone on this planet that Trump really wants to make a deal?
Yeah, of course, one of the Iranian stipulations for coming to the negotiating table was for the fighting between Hezbollah and Israel to stop. And that has continued, which is why you've heard about the very contentious phone call that President Trump had with Prime Minister Netanyahu.
The fake one.
You've seen the continual, bombardment going back and forth between Israel and Hezbollah. And of course, this is what precipitated the Iranian attack the other day and then the counterattack by the Israelis. So unfortunately, the president really has a lot of things going on here. He's got to convince the Israelis, yes, they have the right of self-protection. They need to protect themselves, but we've got to figure out a way to kind of broker some sort of ceasefire in Lebanon so that that can be one of the stipulations that we kind of take off the table. Then the next thing is, we've got to figure out a way where we convince the Iranians that we will lift the blockade if they open the straits, and then sit down and begin the long-term and the hard negotiations that will come.
Yeah, and long and hard, as you said, and with the prior deal, of course, we know it took years to get it done.
Right.
Now, Trump's claims of an imminent deal, as you know, Admiral, have been preceded by bombastic rhetoric that was unsettling to everyone. From both Trump as well as the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. Here are just a few things that they've said to remind everybody of those moments where your heart would be in your throat many times.
Who is this even for anymore? Just boomers? No, for the most part, this is for the media class itself, media and political class. It's been changing for a while, but over time, legacy media has basically been a self-soothing mechanism for the people raping the country to death. Like, the effort here is not to convince people or to change anyone's minds or I guess, like, do what you would expect media to do normally. The goal is to provide a rhetorical outlet for these people so they can self-soothe while they do the thing that collapses the empire anyway,
The early days of this war.
I had to do a little stopover in Iran, and we had to knock the hell out of them.
We negotiate with bombs.
We just keep bombing our little hearts out.
Death and destruction from the sky all day long.
That last threat from the Defense Secretary, death and destruction from the sky all day long, also comes in the context of Trump and the Easter Post, which of course is unforgettable, Admiral, where the president wrote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again." I'm thinking in the context of the fact that you're writing a book in honor of America's 250th anniversary. What are the consequences on the world stage for an American president and the leader of its military, his defense secretary, to be speaking in this way?
Well, certainly the rhetoric doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help in the process of the negotiations. As I mentioned before, at the end of the day, Trump wants to broker a deal with the Iranians. And the deal has got to begin with opening the straits. And so he's got to get them to the negotiating table. He's got to provide some sort of incentive that opens the straits and brings the Iranians to the negotiating table. The rhetoric won't help. But to your point about my book, Duty...
Iranian missiles landed? What is this? Just a picture? All right. Not much to go off of here. Thank you. Plattner called by AP News? Yeah, of course. Obviously. That was never even remotely in doubt for the primary. I wouldn't worry about it. Man, oh man. Okay. Yeah, so I guess that's my update on returning. Everything is going to get worse. Those the missiles launching? Yeah, that is what that looks like. Yes. Why does the media talk so bad about leftists and so mid about war crimes? This is a rhetorical question. You're wasting my time. You know the answer. I keep hitting the Bahrain Ministry of Interior. The siren has sounded. We urge citizens and residents to remain calm and head to the nearest safe place. Bahrain's under fire. Very much ongoing.